percentages of play, age equivalents, all of the things that we love, right, as therapists. This is not set up like that. It is designed to be basically a comprehensive assessment that identifies needs, gets a baseline for development, helps create goals, and any ECSE in here, or who's worked in the school district, knows IEP goals are often just selected from a bank. And that bank of goals comes from the AEPS3 when you're talking about early childhood. So again, we're taking a round peg and we're getting into a really tight square. But again, 4 to 6 it goes to, so it does transfer, and most school districts are using this as well. We know that it covers 8 areas of development. We know that our least favorite are literacy and math. And we say all the time, our kids don't know those things, our kids aren't doing those things. One of the reasons the AEPS has added those is because if you followed any tracking of where we are as a country, we are behind in reading and we are behind in math. So there's a big push for state and federal programs to address these through increasing the standards of learning. That's why it's part of it. If you're assessing a baby, they're gonna just put zeros. Like literally, probably, I mean, most of our kiddos are gonna have zeros on those, and we'll pull it up and look at it a little bit later. Again, this whole AEPS3, all the sections are really, again, designed to support school readiness. There's a lot of talk about early learning standards, big push for early childhood development, big push for early intervention. The piece of it, this last bullet, is it is a valid, I didn't want to put this, you guys. It is a valid tool to determine eligibility for special education. And the link to that is to provide us with curriculum-based data. So what is the child doing in this developmental area? What is the child not doing? And then from there, it's supposed to help us identify goals. Where we get stuck, who writes the goals in Part 3? Parents, right? It's not helpful for us, but it is helpful for Part B. So, right, like again, we're trying to fit it into something that a system that isn't really designed for that. But it is a tool that everybody recognizes. It says, yes, we're going to use this to identify children who have special needs. Before we start talking about what it is not, questions, thoughts so far? Okay. Julie, where's Julie? Julie was in the office. I got there at 10:49. I thought it was 9:49. I thought I had an hour and 15 minutes to write this, 8:15. It was all up here. I just had to get it down. So what the AEPS is not, again, these are the things I think we need to talk about, because this is where we just kind of block, right? This is our barrier. Again, we want it to do something it's never going to do. So the AEPS is not norm referenced. A norm referenced assessment answers the question, how does this child compare to other children of the same adjusted or chronicles age? It is a direct comparison to peers. Again, the AEPS is criterion referenced. It's saying, how is this child doing with this skill? So it's not comparing. And I think that's probably one of the hardest parts. When you guys hear those two questions of what it does and does not answer and ask, what are your thoughts? Lisa.
So it makes me wonder if I'm describing like the cutoff scores correctly to parents. So what do the cutoff scores mean then? Because I know like when I was with Blue Valley, we were always told or taught to say that if the child is at or below the number, it could indicate a delay. I just assumed that there was some kind of research or evidence against other kids. So how would you explain that?
Yeah, so the cutoff scores are really not the child has a delay compared to peers. The child could have a delay in this area. However, the tricky part, and yes, the cutoff scores are important because they do tell us this child may have a delay in. That delay may be 5% if you're talking norm referenced age comparison, or it may be 50%. We don't know. The APS is not going to tell us that. So the bottom bullet point on this slide, we should never use the AEPS as a standalone assessment tool. So what that means is we shouldn't just do the APS and that's it. You should do parent interview, right? Which we do with RBI. You should do direct observation. So you're watching the child naturally interact during that eval. You should also do direct interaction. You should do therapist, teacher to child interaction. Those three things in combination with the AEPS are going to help you say, yes, this child has a developmental delay of 25% or more. You don't have to be specific. You can just say, yep. How you know that is you have to know typical development. And that I think is the hardest part of coming into this job as a new grad or a professional maybe who's never worked in pediatrics is nobody gives you like a list of do these things at exactly this age. And you just sort of build it up and learn it, which is why I kind of like the help. And we use that for so long that a lot of it just have it by memory. But we cannot put age ranges on the APS again because of copyright issues. So yeah, so that's again, if you think about that third, when we write the My Child story, and at the top there's 3 boxes, and it's like, what assessment tool did you use? And you write the APS. And then it's like, what parent interview did you use? And then that second box you write the RBI. And then there's a third box that's like, what else did you do? That's where you write parent interview, direct observation, therapist interaction. We've got to include those 3 things because you're doing. I know you're not just asking the questions on the APS. So that box, which is technically, I think, 1C on that page, that's where you, again, want to do your comprehensive assessment tools. The APS does not give us percentile rankings. It does not give us age equivalence. It does not rank children compared to peers because it's not norm referenced. Alicia probably knows all this. She's in grad school. I used to know all this by heart. I'm like, I got standardized. I got this. And I was. So when you think about this, what it is, what it is not, thoughts, questions, Meredith? I know you raised your hand. I didn't know if it was about cutoff scores.
Cutoff scores, but you kind of answered it, but it's basically about saying that there's a 25% delay or a 20% delay. Hardly anyone asks that, but that is really hard to explain if there's not a specific age range, or if we're not, referencing other kids. If it's not, because it's not norm reference, I think it would be really hard if somebody were to ask that question to explain other kids are doing this and let's explain that is why there is a such and such percent delay. We don't have that information specifically. I feel like it's just, again, I just pray that nobody asks that because that's part because it's not black and white
Right.
in that way, which is why I love to help. And this is this age, and then this is what your age is, and then do the math, and that's your percentage delay. And I mean, even then, it wasn't how people were explaining it that way, but at least we had something to fall back on with a number to a number. And this is just.
So Meredith is saying, what she's identified, I think, is the crux of the issue, is we're using the AEPS, doesn't tell us ages, doesn't tell us ranks, doesn't tell us anything, but then we also have to turn around and say your child has a 25% developmental delay, which is a norm referenced determination.
Yeah.
So we are using a norm referenced determination without a norm referenced tool. That is the problem. That's what I'm asking you guys to do. I'm asking you to jump from here to here, and it sucks, and it's hard, and it's confusing. And those are the questions you guys should be asking instead of being like, Like, this is why I love you guys, is because you're like, this doesn't make sense. And you're right, it literally doesn't make sense. A long time ago, Meredith, you remember, like, a coordinator would call and be like, Meredith, I got this 2-year-old, he's saying 2 words in Prairie Village, do you want him? And Meredith would be like, yep. And she would go out by herself and she would do the real 3 probably, because every kid qualifies. Because it's a norm reference test and every kid qualifies with the real 3. That's why Children's Mercy uses it. Are we recording this? Sorry. The Golden Frisco, you might do a PLS 5, or 4 or 3 or whatever we were using back in the early 2000s. PTs, OTs, again, I have no idea. The Peabody, I feel like, is the only thing I know. But yeah, so back in the day, we could say, yeah, this kiddo has a 25% delay because the norm reference test told us that. And we didn't have to really use our brains. And so now we do. You not only have to know typical development, but then you have to do the fancy math to determine, okay, if this child is 24 months old, what does a 25% delay mean? How many months delay is that, right? Like, so you gotta do some simple math. So we're asking you guys to do a lot of different things with a tool that doesn't really do anything except it helps you identify, this is my favorite part, identify needs and monitor progress. This is our bread and butter with the AEPS. Not set goals, I should probably strike through that. But what does the kiddo need? And we're gonna use it at various points to assess and reassess, and that's how we're monitoring progress in the different areas of development. So I'm trying to just stop complaining about it, because it is what it is, and focus on, okay, like, all right, like what are the benefits? Like, what's the one, silver lining we can draw? And it does help us monitor progress, because it's meant monitoring progress for that own child based on where he started or she started and where he or she is developing. So again, you're right though. We're asking you to do something and we're asking you to do it without a tool that helps you do it. Any other thoughts, questions about what it is versus is not? Does it help? Does this make you mad? How do you feel? I'm in therapy and I'm working on identifying my feelings. I'm really good to the basic 6, happy, sad, mad, the ones that we teach our kids, but like the ouch feeling wheel, they got nothing. 2 bullets. Good enough?
I think what I can appreciate, and this is one thing that's not changing.
Love it. Nice sneak in there, girl.
It's mother teaching.
Right?
Yes. I couldn't say it. Thing like it's not changing. We are not gonna pull it out from under your rug and make you have a new one. It's just updated. Oh, be retired by the time there's a new one. And it comes out like every 25 or 30 years, guys. So just crush it fingers.
Monitor now, especially that you are more likely one of the evaluators for that kid. So you are also interpreting that data more consistently for each individual kiddo. And it also can alert us when there's skills, like we might see the rest of the box.
Yes.
So there is value in going back and looking at that.
Yeah. Did you guys hear that? Yeah. Okay. Sweet. Okay. I have 4.
Repeat that.
Oh, I thought everybody said yeah. People said no. So Judy was saying one of the, again, another silver lining is that yes, you are using the APS to track the development of the child. And now that you're doing the eval, you're the one that can interpret that data for the parent, kind of like how Meredith was talking, and you get to track that throughout. And the other nice part, so you get to not only see the progress that is made, but you can also document regression, which we know happens with some of our kids with different diagnoses. So again, all we're doing is we're Brene Browning it and drawing silver linings around a cloud. But yes, thank you for helping me find another bright spot.
I have another one, Monica.
Oh, yes, let's do it.
Right?
Yes.
I have 2. One, I like it. It's just so that I can say, yeah,
Yes, that is the, I'm gonna repeat that. So you can use informed political opinion over here in Kansas. Missouri? Nope. So again, if you're like comfortable, or if it's a kid who you might, is on the fence, put informed political opinion down for the reason for eligibility. If you're like, I am not 100% sure this child has a delay of 25% or more, don't pick that one. Pick ICO.
And a lot of moms would be a good fit for that, moving given depression. So I was able to do informed clinical.
I was able to do informed clinical opinion for a mom that's gonna benefit from the moving beyond clinical depression. You know what I'm talking about, you were there. The other is I've had a family that transitioned from Part B to Part B, and when they had to fill out the online AEPS, they knew what we were talking about, and they felt good about it because they'd already done 2 of them with me. So it made the transition better for the family.
Plants. This is actual, real, positive things happening before your very eyes. But I do love it because we know we've got some areas of development we can't really measure a 25% delay in. Social emotional development. Adaptive, right? We're throwing a dart at a target. So again, I think we've got a tool that helps supplement that without, again, having to, like what if we had a norm reference test that said this kid's totally fine, and then we used a criterion referenced, determination, right? So again, Jordan's looking at me like this is total BS.
I think too, it reminds me that I need to probably spend a little more time on that eligibility page with families because of that Part B option, to let them know that like we have to use more than one tool and kind of plant that seed early, because I think that sometimes when we go to Part B, they're like, they have this cutoff score, they don't qualify. And so having families understand early and having that repetition, like you said, of like, we're gonna have to use multiple tools so that they can advocate for themselves too.
With feeding, where the school is not going to work on feeding with the kids.
Yes, those are definite true stories. Yeah, and another reason, as Katie was talking a little bit too, it's another reason we never want to do an evaluation when we have not seen a child awake, because otherwise you're solely relying upon the APS, and there's no observation and there's no interaction. And sorry, I mean, I'm generally a pretty good reporter for my kid, but do I have bias? Do I think my kid's a genius? Absolutely. I don't want my child to have a delay. So to rely solely upon parent report, I don't think is very fair for us as professionals. We've got to get our eyeballs on these kids. But babies are different, right? Because babies sleep at random times, and they can just they're woken up easier, I feel like. All right, Judy and Katie, I'm running over by 1 minute, which I only have a couple more slides. So one of the first pages, actually the first page, is the demographics. And I was kind of going through, and if I would have really had it together, and yeah, that's never going to happen, but if I did have it together, I probably would have just sampled some of your AEPSs out of your folders to figure out what are we doing great on and what are we not doing great on. I didn't do it, so we're just going to talk about what we should do moving forward. So if you haven't done this yet, start. If you're doing this already, that's great. So the first page, your demographics page, and there are text boxes, child name, child date of birth, and then there's different places for age ratings. Rating number 1 is your initial evaluation. So that date goes in that box. Age at rating 2, and I would put the chronological age in that box, and you can tab over to the next text box and put the adjusted age. But we want to put, or you can put them in both, but we need the actual age on the assessment. That's an AEPS rule. Age at rating 2. If you're updating some sections at the 6-month review, you should put the age at the 6-month review. Same thing with the annual. If you're exiting due to no longer being eligible, that should go in another box. So every time you get it out and update it, you should be writing down the child's age on that moment.
Is it 16?
Is it 16 days and above of where you would make the child, like you round up, right? So if they're like blah, 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 in 26 days, you would do the next one.
So Casey's saying when you do, the formula to determine the age, if you've got a child who's 15 months and 4 days, that child's gonna be 15 months. If you've got a child who's 15 months and 29 days old, you can round up and consider that child 16 months old. And then again, if there's an adjustment, you can just put that somewhere else, because that's the other thing, right? We're, just like Meredith said, we're asking you to do this. But we're also saying, hey, we've got to consider prematurity through age 2. When we're comparing against peers, which is a norm referenced, right? So again, we're trying to blend 19 things in one. How do you guys feel about this page? Do you feel like you're doing it pretty well? Do you feel like you're like, I'm gonna start doing it? Molly, I'm looking at you. Molly just gave me a thumbs up. I do believe that's equivalent to a 5-star review on Google.
Felt an overconsidered age now for kids, but that's at her point of content. So if you are scheduling that kiddo 2 weeks out, 4 weeks out, 6 weeks out, you need to correct the age, not only on the AEPS, but also in your other people's.
Yes, so contrary to what I believe we have a lot of overachievers at Johnson County as a toddler. Angel is one of them, so I didn't know this. But apparently during intake, she's putting the child's age. And who? We have 2 overachievers. We're both doing intake, so you should just type over that. And now Leslie and I know to circle back to our intake team and be like, because you're not evaluating them, you're just doing intake, so.
And Monica, are we doing, we do need to do it at the 6-month review?
It is best practice to update the whole thing every year. And also every 6 months to update the areas that have delays. So if you're seeing a child, and let's say the delay is only in expressive language, you should go ahead and update the AEPS. That's the best practice for birth to 3 because of this significant rate of change. Now, we have to do the whole shebang every 12 months. Yeah, and the school districts, they do it every 3 years, is when they do that reassessment piece.
Did we get that 6-month review and just say they're in PT, so we just do the 5-month dose later? Do you build it out whenever you the date that you're saying that you're rating them? Or
That might be for PPT, you guys have that minimal. Is that what it's called? Minimum? Absolutely. You should definitely do that if you're updating the assessment. And the reason for that is the family has signed the initial consent for evaluation, and that's good for a whole year. And within that document, as I'm sure you've all read, it literally says in their ongoing assessment. So there's a difference between evaluation, looking at eligibility, and assessment to monitor progress. We do a lot of informal assessment, right? A lot of this. And we do the eligibility at entry and exit. The formal, so, and the state talks in evaluation and assessment. And we kind of use them interchangeably, which is why when you listen to a kid's call, I'm like, don't panic, because words matter at the state level. And here, we're a little bit more cash, as Casey says. She doesn't say that.
Never.
We're gonna talk about scoring, and then I have, how are you two doing? You're good? Okay, cool. We're gonna talk a little bit about scoring. I've also heard from a couple people, they're not sure how to score it, and I think that's totally fair, because we probably never talked to you about it. And then we have a couple, requests for review for some tricky AEPS strands, skills, substrands. So to score the AEPS, you score each strand with a 0, a 1, or a 2. And you might be thinking right now, how do I know what a strand is? And I will tell you, when Nikki, who's not here, created this document, she color coded it. So what you have here on your bottom of your tab is your area of development, one of your 8 areas of development. So fine motor, gross motor, whatever. Then at the top, well, technically this is your skill. So reaching, grasping, releasing. Anything in gray has to have a 0, 1, or a 2 after it, because those are those scores in those gray boxes get totaled for your guys's comparison to the age equivalent. If you score a 2, why can't I do that? If you score 2, which I can't seem to do in this gray box, you do not have to do the white sections underneath. Because we know a child has mastered the strand skill, so we know they mastered what leads up to it, right? The white skills leading up to the gray box are the things that you have to do before, it's like you have to climb the mountain before you get to the top. So if you score a 1 or a 0 in your gray strands, you must score all of the white that falls below it. So if your child gets a 1 here for grasping key-size objects, you literally have to go through all of these white boxes and determine, is that subskill a 0, a 1, or a 2? Those don't get factored into your age equivalent or your age cutoff scores. Sorry, I didn't say age, don't say that. It does not get factored in, only the gray ones do. So again, what are you gonna put in your gray boxes?
0, 1, or 2.
2, that's what I heard. 0, 1, 2. Say what you say. What are you gonna put in your gray boxes?
0, 1, 2.
I enthusiasm about. If you score a 2 here, what are you gonna do next?
Leave it in. Move on.
Move on to the next gray one. Leave the white ones empty. Awesome, I love it. Who is already doing this? Who feels good about this? Who is like, oops, I learned something new today.
I thought you could skip zeros if a gray was 0.
See, that's one brave person being like, I have been doing it wrong. No, you've been doing it different. So doing it wrong is not doing it at all. Yeah. Kelsey, everybody loves you. You're so funny. Okay, questions about scoring 0s, 1s, 2s. Lisa.
So across the assessment, they're all strands, because it used to be with the second version that it wasn't all like cumulatives. The white ones weren't always cumulative to the gray, but they are now.
The white ones do nothing except track progress. Where is the kid developmentally?
Okay.
It has no impact on the score in the gray box.
So all the ones underneath the gray ones in the section relate to that.
Correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, for example, this one right here, number 1 is your strand, and then your 1, 1, and 1, 2 are the skills that you need to master the strand. It is entirely possible to have a 1 in this box and a 2 and 2s in those boxes, and you're still not seeing that strand completely independently. That's okay. Just because your white boxes are 2s, your gray does not have to be 2s.
Hierarchy.
They are based on what I have seen, yes. So your white skill at the that's what only has 2. That's not a very good example. Your white strand or your white substrand or subskill at the very bottom is kind of your easiest. And then it builds and builds and builds. So by the time you get to the gray, again, that's the big dog, as Casey says. Casey doesn't say that either. She's cooler than that.
I do think, like, if you go back to fine motor, under like number 2, those are kind of tricky ones, I feel like, where it's not like that, because a lot of kids will grasp small cylinder objects or hand-sized objects before they do the 2.3, which is the pea-sized raising graph. So it's like, some of them are kind of all over.
Yes, yes, I would say the same thing, like, I'm not like, yeah, it does give me pause. And to be honest, the APS wasn't designed to do that, but I think they tried to do it. Now, what has happened is the first round of the 3rd edition came out, and then they updated a couple of sections. So we had to update cutoff scores and things like that. So, because everybody was unhappy with the motor section. And probably still is, but maybe it's better, I don't know. So yeah, so not 100%, but a lot of it builds from the bottom up. You're exactly right. All right, so the notes column. So I'm gonna just pop this up. So you guys can see column H. Oh, one more thing, date right here. This will be the date you did the assessment. So again, your initial evaluation date. This could possibly be a 6-month review. This could possibly be an annual. And you might have different dates on the other sections if you're not updating them all. And that, again, that's okay. Just use the date for the section, the tab that you're updating in that moment of time.
But the day that we finish the evaluation or the day we started?
For an extended eval, that's a great question. What APS would, so I'm thinking here, because when you do an extended eval, are you technically billing 2 eval codes then? One for your first and one for your second extended? Let's ask Isabel a question she doesn't want to answer. Let's say this. If you're going to bill an eval in Relay, you should have a date that corresponds here. If you're not gonna bill an eval in CompuClaim, Relay Dash, you guys, oh my God, it used to be called NeduClaim too. I know, Casey's like, NeduClaim, I remember that. She actually doesn't, she wasn't around here. So yeah, so if you're gonna bill a date in, yep, as an actual code, you're gonna put a date here. If you're going to not, and you're just gonna go out and update some more skills, you don't have to. Yep,
Question.
get me.
So if I do a PT consult and I'm not on the IFSP and I'm billing that as an evaluation, do I have to have update the gross motor scores on the week?
The question is, do I have to do more work? That's what I heard from Laura Nelson, who never ever complains. No, she had a really good question. If Rebecca brings Laura out as a consult and Laura fills an eval, which is what we're supposed to do when we're not on the IFSP, does she have to update the AEPS? I'm gonna say yes. I would love it if you got into the file and updated one tab of whatever you're assessing. If you forget, guess what? Who's gonna know? Leslie? Me? We're gonna trust that you guys are doing your job. And you're gonna forget, and that's okay. Because the nice part is we've got your documentation and Relay, which says the skills and the things you saw and the things you observed. So we've got it somewhere, right? So it would be ideal to have it if you're billing an eval. And you're like, yes, is Heather Harrison here? Remember what you said to me in the SLP billing? She goes, we were talking about something at one point. She goes, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. If right now you're saying that, it's okay. Heather's already beat you to it. That might have been one of my all-time favorite Heather Harris moments in the 3 years we worked here together. So the notes column really is designed to, again, help you guys track where that child is, what assistance is needed to target and get to that strand. So Nikki put a key up here, our means report. So again, If a parent tells you something and you didn't see it, you can put, I can't type on this document for some reason, and I actually am pretty smart, I don't know why.
Because it's protected. It hasn't been saved.
Oh, it's under that file mode. Okay, well, that makes sense. So if it's all report, you can put an R in here. If this one, you had to help the kiddo, you can put the assistance, which is 1A. This is really solely for you guys. So you can again track progress and monitor development. If you, who uses the notes column right now?
Not
very
rarely.
I don't
You might like I've seen it, but
It's like, I do my own thing, Monica.
I just.
So Luke is writing subjective notes, so he remembers what was going on 6 months ago when he saw that kid. And you know what? That's okay too. It's not how it's supposed to be used, but oh well. You guys are doing great. No one really cares.
I love this.
Yes, like, okay, for coach state, when you're writing, so like it's a technique that we're studying themselves, so. If we use that on an SLI or evaluation, but on math, and it just gets ovulated.
It's actually, you're actually supposed to put a 2A or 2B in your column right here. But if you do that, it won't total the score. And we thought it was more important for you guys for this document to do the math. So we have cheated the system and we moved it to its own column, which is why it doesn't make sense. But every column is literally supposed to have 2A, 2R, 2I, whatever. Again, but then you have to do the math, and there's a lot of room for human error, even just adding to 10. So, yeah, right? Hannah always just giving me an affirmative on that. So that's the notes column, if you want to use it how it was designed, and if you want to just be like Luke, who wants to be like Luke? It's to have their car stolen. And the only thing you were worried about is your golf clubs. If you don't know that story, Luke will be happy to tell it another time. Yeah. Or you can contact the Garden Group. Don't contact Walmart because they're not gonna give you any security footage from their parking lots. That's just not gonna happen. Okay, we got the items. Here's the deal. I want to do videos and I want to talk about what Judy and Katie are talking about, but I just love a microphone and I'm afraid I'm gonna talk the whole entire time. So how do we feel about pausing on the tricky items? Because more were submitted, we review them next time and we turn it over to the masters of the video.
Yep. Yes.
Okay, because let's be honest. It's fine if we wait a couple more weeks on the tricky items. Just keep doing what you've been doing. Lindy liked that one. I didn't even take Adderall today. It's just me. I have so much fun with you.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna show a video of the babies that were submitted. So, we're gonna try to have time so we can show just one video of everybody. And then we're gonna go through and we're gonna talk about scoring. So I'm gonna show a video and then if you want to score it on your computer, I'll give you a couple areas. We'll only do probably like 2 areas for each video, so we have time. And then we'll talk about it as a group. So the first one, is Libby here? Yeah. Hey, Libby, you got number 1. Oh wait, hold on, sorry. Let's do for this one, let's do for Olivia, we're gonna do fine motor and gross motor. Okay. See if I have down going. Sorry. Leslie, do you know, does it play sound through this thing?
It should.
Oh, I have it.
Yeah, I can hear it. I can hear it.
Hey, this. I wonder if it's this.
Don't get lost in watching the cute babies. You got skill.
Score for growth motor finder. Turn it up a little. Hear that better now? No. Okay, I don't know. We'll see what we can do. Okay. And then we're just gonna roll through and do everybody who's 0 to 6. So you could just put like their initial by them. So that was Olivia. Oh, and here's one more of Olivia.
A couple good guesses.
But she didn't want to. Oh, sorry. This Hi. Play this again so they can try to hear it. It's not a little bit. Good. Louder. No. Okay. All right, so we saw Olivia. Here's Ruby. Let's do Ruby for let's do cognitive and social emotional. I'll play it again. Do communication too. If you guys need me to pause. Okay, and then Sophie here, we're gonna do gross motor and fine motor.
Gross and nine.
You can do it.
And then one more, then we're got. And then this is Sophie, 9 months, so let's do oh, sorry, or, never mind, we'll wait on that one. Let me see if there was the other. When are you gonna go? Oh, let's do, Ruby at 6 months. Let's do this one for, so this will add on, because we started with her with, social and communication and cognition. Okay. Pause and kind of score those up, and then, if you want to, let's talk around your tables first about kind of things you noticed. All of these ones were, under 6 months, so I know that that's always a tricky area for the APS. So talk about kind of maybe the barriers of that, and maybe what you would do if you had a kiddo in one of these age ranges to kind of, like Monica said, add in some more information from the eval to help determine if they're eligible. So chat and then we'll come together.
What do we need to do? I haven't finished. I am. While we discussing.
Oh.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. What if I'm just kind of moving around. I covered a last, and then we're gonna find a freshman. Now, the
Communication, maybe for Ruby, I thought that.
so if we start with find mother for I mean, say on reaching and grasping, then she activate the little piano thing. I know we're gonna do it now. I don't know about Brian. So I think just in talking with you, I'll have enough information to know she to them.
That's a she admitted to grab them, right? Oh, I might have missed the first video too. I'm seeing.
Thank you. Yes, it should probably be first. Yeah. I gave her credit for doing. It was set up in 2.1, it's really. I think it's like change. They have that just looking for without our. I don't find that it's just good. Like,
Maybe it's genuinely like this is grasping it, but like with the whole hand.
I think it's very subjective. Cylinder object, small cylinder object and hand object. There's really not. I think when it comes down to it, because a hand object could be a cylinder and so I don't need.
But like using full hand versus just grasping it.
It does.
But where you click the red box.
I will grasp you, but if it's strong, you won't be ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. These days, obviously, find it against.
Yeah. I mean, it's that first. There.
Yeah.
Yeah, based on.
Right. Well, I didn't stop. And 4 minutes and then break down these things. After people do that, they really now. But other ones, they want to go back to work. You know, it's sort of that though, sorry, yeah, we just I won't be.
I know. It would be nice, even just as like a reminder for like a non-OT, if in those blocks there was like a little key. Typically happens around 2 or like, you know, even sometimes even before the speech, like what we were talking about the other day at team, to like the social smile. I think, gosh, I couldn't even tell you in that social smile events. It'd be great if it's in that little red box that you just, it's like if it's typically it occurs around, because when if I'm ever like it's such an evaluator and I'm filling in the fine tuner piece because I'm with an easy answer something. It's a lot of just like I think, you know, or looking it up or something like that. But it would be cool to have a key therapy. About 1 minute and chat about it. Let's well, we should wait. I mean, I felt so. It was kind of me. I've already and I do big book of adapters. So
Okay, come back together. So, what's some of the things for fine motor? What's some of the things that stuck out to you guys as far as like the under 6 month skills? What are some things that stuck out to you for kiddos who are under 6 months? Or the ones that we saw on the fine motor skills?
Reaching, batting, hands midline.
Great job, Ellen.
Thanks.
You just read.
My mentor.
Yeah, that's great. Were you guys in agreement in that area with the kiddos that you explored, or was there anything that was way off? So yes, in agreement? Okay. So one thing, we kind of talked about this earlier with the number 2, like the different grasps. If you have a kid who's under 6 months, what are like some, I guess, assumptions you have to make? What's some other information you need? Some other questions you need to ask that's not included in grasp, reaching, those kind of skills here?
Symmetry, like looking at symmetry of all of
Yeah, they
this.
already have like a strong dominant voice sheet.
Yeah, so Chloe said it's concerning if there's already a strong dominant hand or dominant side, and then Ellie said asymmetries would be on there that's not listed here. What
Like
numbers, so
like tightness, like I've heard the OTs talk about like they just really have their curled in or something like that.
tightness, tension, so we have like bringing hands to midline, but that's different than tightness and tension. One thing that we have chatted about for the, Judy and I about the 6 month and under is hard because you're really only looking at like areas 1 and 2. There's not a whole lot going on there, so.
And a 0 is okay, right,
Yeah.
on the score.
And a 0 is okay.
That reference.
So leaning into some of those like maybe things that are atypical or parent report or pulling in vision and looking at that as far as fine motor, which isn't listed anywhere on here. Anything else before we move on to gross motor? So then for those under 6 months for gross motor, anything that stuck out to you guys?
Interpretation of like skill number 2. I've always interpreted that as like, can I get up on an elbow and reach forward with one? Jenny was saying, oh, I think that means like they're in hands and knees position.
Yeah, so we had a couple different interpretations for number 2, so I was gonna pull up the AEPS, what Nikki has. Has anybody used the little red tabs to kind of look at the descriptions?
You know, but it does seem like it didn't feel like say a lot of people. Kids.
Can you just go in that unprotected realize it has to be done with both hands?
But it's kind of. So.
If you hover over that red box, it'll give you the definition of what we want for that strand. Now granted, that's the strand, not the subset of it, but it does give you an indication of what we would expect.
So they said, here's the expectation of it. So lying on your stomach with your head lifted, child puts weight on one hand or arm while reaching with the opposite hand. Reaching must be done with each hand. So it doesn't specify, are they on extended hands? Are they on propped on forearm? So that is a little tricky there. We do have the subsets kind of under there. If we look at those, you have, both of those are, the first one is propped. And then what next one's on extended. So Monica, what would your like interpretation be? The number 2 would have to be on extended if you've already set it in white.
So if you're saying if you've done 2.1 as a 2.
If you have a 2 and a 2.2 and 2.1, so they've done extended and they've done non-extended, would we make an assumption that number 2 has to be an extension, not on forearms? That's what I would think, but I don't know.
I think assumption based on development and the hierarchy of it. I think, again, this could be one where you might have a 2 for the white lines, but for the gray, you have a 1. They might not be doing it with each hand. Or you didn't see it, or Karen didn't report. So again, this could be an example of where your sub skills are a 2, but your strand is not yet. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Laura, did you have anything to add to that? No, there's okay. Just a yes. Laura said yes to extended for development too. It is hard when it gives you an and or. So.
But you can also lean into your partner.
AEPS manual. So we can't like go in here and add extended because that's not what AEPS published. So, and Nikki, whatever's in here, I guarantee came off AEPS, and she is hardcore.
She is precise.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anything else? We've got the discussion about number 2, number 3. We didn't see any rolling here. So this is kind of where you probably have to pull out your questions for parents or that their therapist hands-on to elicit some of those strategies too with rolling. Where are you guys thinking, like generally, if you have a kiddo who's 6 months or under, where are you kind of expecting them to max out at skills here? Are we expecting number 5? No. Are we expecting number 4? Or is that number 4?
Some of them?
Some of them.
Yeah, they would be doing some of it.
Yeah, so a couple things there. So again, like the fine motor, there's a little bit more information in gross motor, but we're missing asymmetries, tone, tension, anything else that we need to ask for or we need to look at.
Down to like the next section, like everything's there, so that would emerge around that 6 month.
Yes.
And crawling forums. Crawling.
Jenny mentioned pivoting on stomach and crawling forward could be some that we would see under number 1B.
Or that's something we have to consider. Are they mastering the skill or if they just started, like rolling, especially people say they roll 5 or once, and then maybe we see it one time in the valve for that.
And they roll 2 months and then again, maybe in their sleep. So you definitely got to clarify some of those.
Yeah.
Some other skills to think about even in there, like, do they tolerate tummy time? Right, that's part of that gross motor too. Am I getting to be in my tummy? Do they bear weight when you're like holding them? Can they kind of put their feet on your legs? So there's definitely some other kinds of things you can look at for quality
as well.
I feel like head lag is not on here, but a lot of referrals are like, oh, they have a big head lag. And maybe they're doing this other stuff, but yeah, they have a very head lag. Even if you forget to look at that, maybe you'll miss it, but.
Yeah, Jenny mentioned head lag. There are quite a few referrals. That's kind of like the check off at the pediatrician office, like what they're like, well, I know they check it every time, but like by 4 months checkup, they really want that efficient and that's not on there. Same with like reflexes. It doesn't go over any reflexes, but if there's any that around, 6 months, if there's still some lingering that we should see starting to go away, or there's some that are absent, that might be something to note too.
And the number 4 strand, and the singing, then limit the tab from the position, standing, breathing, lying down. And I always thought of that as lying down. Just the hands and knees or sides on, but I think that our standing has all the.
So Angie was saying with number 4, that it says from any position to get into, to assume balanced sitting position. So for that transition versus, she was interpreting it is from laying down. Is that correct?
Yeah, or hands and knees,
Yeah, or hands and knees.
Says with legs and drives across, so if they're heavy, so they're I guess don't.
Yeah, and we know some of our kids can do like the one transition, but they can't do them all, or they're doing like a funky thing to get into transition. So I think those red arrows are helpful too when you go through to ask, like, to give you some follow-up questions to ask. Because if you just say like, can they get into sitting? And they're like, yeah, sure. But then asking through all of those different positions gives you a better idea. Like, are they just like using all their upper body or lower body to get in that position?
Hey, Katie.
Okay, yeah.
And I know, Monica, you just said that Nikki pulled this all from the AEPS. I was chatting with our group. It would be really cool if in that little red tab, if it said like typically mastered by age whatever, when going through stuff, just like as a non-motor person to even like learn more about.
But I don't
We
think
used to
that.
have that on the last one, and I don't think we
Okay.
do it on this one.
Gotcha.
Right, is that correct?
Not included in this.
And the actual.
Stuff again, as we were transitioning, that we can't do that. And if you ask the APS, they will tell you, don't worry about the age. Just
Are they doing?
mark it, are they doing it or they're not? Which also doesn't, it goes back to Meredith's, well, how are you supposed to know that? Like,
Yeah.
or
It
running.
would just help me learn more about development, even in some speech things that I'm like, when were they supposed to do that? But yeah, that's kind of what I figured. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Your reference.
Mm-hmm.
You look at Holden Christo, or you could do Flip Real, or you can do those.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't use them for eligibility. You can use them for extra info.
And that also just reiterates why we use 2 different therapists so that we're not expected to hold all the knowledge. And I think sometimes as special educators, we get focused on what we can't do, that we forget what the standard is, right? It's easier we need to remember, what do most kids do? So if that's an area that's difficult for you and you're seeing a kiddo in a daycare, paying attention to other kids in the daycare, what are they doing in that gross motor play? Kind of like just building your own knowledge with that can be really helpful. And a real quick, easy one, I always put a plug in for the ASQ is so quick and easy, and it gives some really good basic skills that are also easy to show parents maybe what next steps are or what they can expect. Those visuals on there can be really, really helpful. But they're also really good for me to go like, oh, what should that look like? What's that prop sitting look like? What is that?
Anything else on gross motor before we move to adaptive? All right, adaptive skills. Did we score this on anybody? No.
I think everybody's older.
Okay, yep, okay,
It's
well,
pretty light in this area. Is there anything else you would add as you're thinking about that 0 to 6? When you're thinking about if there'd be concerns in this area?
Like, are they showing hunger cues even?
Hunger cues? Have they been introduced to solids? Sometimes that'll begin around that same time sitting's happening. How is sleep at this age? It should start to get a little more organized as well. Okay.
I think too, like, looking at like what they're swallowing and how are they swallowing it, kind of that more like quality, which is where leaning into informed clinical opinion is really nice. Like, when did they start introducing? Are they introducing at 6 months, or is this a family that started introducing at like 4 months and a little bit early? And what does that look like? Okay, so let's go to social emotional.
And I don't know that necessarily anybody particular would have had, that we've seen videos so far here. Anything come up that came to mind for any of those we've seen that you would give credit for? Yeah.
Thought Ruby did a great job. Ruby was imitating.
Yeah. She had that smile.
Yeah. She copied the clap.
Yes.
I think Ruby was the one who looked from grandma to like either mom or dad and then like back during that, so that drawing attention there.
One thing, actually McKenna brought it up was for the typically like the baby that got really excited during the singing. So would we give that a 2, but she's not identifying or labeling emotions?
Yeah, so what is the red,
It says like respond appropriately to others' emotions, which that's like an appropriate response.
Yeah.
But she's also, the baby's not gonna say, oh, she's happy, you know, she's not like labeling.
Sure.
Mhm.
And what is, the gray say above, the red tab, when we click on it, do we people?
Child adjust responses to a range of emotions of others using socially appropriate behaviors.
And that's one of those, yeah, that's one of those where you go, that looks different at 6 months than it does at 18 months. Right? If I see, if the, like, even that she would respond, oh, she's happy, or mom might have a sad face and you notice that different response, or the baby looks worried. But the 18-month, you kind of hope someone would be like, oh, are you okay? You know, kind of thing, or looking to the caregiver like, someone's sad over here, what's going on? So having that emotional intelligence with that.
It's important too when we're scoring AEPS that we typically think like above all three of these. But like for social emotional, where it has like interactions with adults. Item 3 is like a definite higher level kind of skill. Participating in social routines. And a lot of times I think that's built in as a 2, but it should often have to be a 0 for younger kids, because then you got something like 2.3 in area B. A lot of kids are 2.3, like responds appropriately to soothing by a familiar adult. A lot of kids would be getting a 2 there, but item 3 up above should oftentimes be 0.
And I think that's what Monica was saying, like just score on like what the kiddo's doing. But
Yeah, and I think and why there's not specific ages or ranges attached to these is because you're using it as a measurement of the child's development from eval to exit. And so again, you're not comparing, but a 6-month-old might interact socially inappropriately with clapping and waving and right smiling, but then that they might have a 2 and at 18 months they might have a 0 because they've lost skills. So again, it's a measurement of the individual child's development over time.
Yes.
And that's the hardest part is none of these go with specific ages. It's are they doing it or are they not?
And I think Luke's point of like, especially in this area, it's not like those upper ones are all, yeah, like you're gonna meet those first. It might be sporadic in those. Yeah, and that's okay. Some things for some younger kids there, are they exploring their own body? Do they find their feet? Do they put things in their mouth? Do they scratch up their clothes? That's some of that awareness of self, some of that play that it's also fine motor things related to that as well. But that's another thing you can look at with that, or do they feel safe and comfortable to do that exploration? Should we go on to the social communication? Call out, what did you see for kids in those first videos?
Hair doing, yeah.
Raspberries. What else? I think we already mentioned, we saw Ruby was paying attention and then she heard clapping and she turned to look what that was and then kind of came back to her other. So she's definitely looking at those sounds.
We saw show some frustration. She like looked up and like kind of growled a little bit when she was frustrated. You just want to see the baby.
I know. I know.
Who wants to score?
No kidding. That might be a good lunch and learn. Bring your baby and practice scoring. Yes. Oh my gosh.
Okay, and then cognitive. I think too, like we talked a lot, I know in different team meetings about like communication. When we get those referrals of those babies under 9 months, that they can still qualify if we're not seeing some of those things. As like foundational skills. So thinking about that, they don't have to be over 9 months to qualify for communication. And I'm not a speech therapist, so depend on rely on your speech therapist.
Are they interested in interacting? Do you see that communication side as well? Because that's really those foundation skills we're looking for, right?
And then cognitive. And then we get to watch more videos.
This can feel a little light in this area as well. What do you guys feel like you're looking for 0 to 6 for the cognition, or what you noted?
Responding to sounds or visual cues.
I heard somebody else over here. Tracking. That's a big one. Are they tracking? Yes. Do they happen to reach for an item? Will they hold an item if you give it to them? That's some of that problem solving as well.
All right, imitation of like the familiar order patterns, so like, when you're in a 5, 6 months and we're like banging on a high chair and they copy it, or like the raspberries, like they copy the raspberries.
Yes. That novel physical imitation.
Just overall, it's like social interest, just being interested in people more than objects, like they're shooting naturally there.
All right, let's watch 9 to 12 months. Is that what we're doing next? Okay.
Yeah, and we only have a few minutes, right? We're here till 1. Is that right?
Okay. So we'll watch these and then just shout out while we're watching it, maybe what you're seeing. That way we can keep the videos going. All right, what did you guys see in different developmental areas?
I think this is one you can infer, right? Different textures of food. We can look at the plate, what's being offered. Are they eating those different things?
There's just one stuff.
Chloe said she's clapping. She's kicking those legs. How's she doing sitting up? And then when Chloe said yay, what did she do? Yeah, she got excited. Okay, we've got.
I think there's another one of her feet.
Like it's a younger one though, when she's spoon fed, I think.
See you guys seeing us on Teams. What?
A little bit all combination. Yeah. The W with the L.
Consonant vowels. Sorry, motor wise, what are you guys seeing? Lining up objects, fitting them into a designated space. Let's do. Oh, here's another one. Here's Callum, 13 months.
I want to eat that.
More. More. Okay, almost done.
Oh, okay.
Look at those eyebrows.
Oh.
This little voice. We're so full communication, like even though it wasn't really intelligible, like. Talking about.
It's a great example of turn taking right, that they're getting more than one turn back and forth with that verbal.
Oh.
Playing in those reciprocal games, throwing things on the floor. I heard using utensils, self-feeding with fingers.
Point to requesting.
There was a point. Okay, we've got Arthur at 15 months. Carrot. Carrot. Job. What's this? What's this? Onion.
Imitating words.
Imitating words.
Pointing.
Pointing.
Walking.
Walking.
Squats down.
Pull the onion apart, so using bilateral. What do you see?
I repeated.
I think he squatted down to put
The squat, he also like tossed. So we could like infer that question about like a ball, talking a ball overhand. Doesn't have to be a ball.
Responded to an initiation. She said, "What's this?" And he turned around and came back over.
Responded to an initiation when mom asked, "What's this?" Okay, we got just a couple more. This is Olivia, somebody's grandbaby. Yeah.
And this is different than imaginative, right? She's using the objects as they are intended, which would look different than something that
Oh, sorry.
was different. Like she might be using the jug for something else. She's an early player. This is pretty extensive play for an 18-month-old.
She's got that rotation in her wrist to try to open up the cup. Okay, and then little Reese. Are you gonna sit?
Follows a command.
You got it.
Oh, good pushing. Good pushing.
If she can sit on that, you can probably assume she can get in and out of a chair.
Your hair's crazy. You want both. Okay. Whoosh.
Your friend's gonna go down the side. Ready, set, go.
Climbed up those stairs, but it was not alternating, which we would not expect.
Ready? Oh, you pretended.
Anything else from Reed?
Right on, 20 question. There's like one line, that's like a right on.
Oh, yeah, right on.
And I think she imitates, where's Jordan at? She imitates in that, you were saying, we didn't see it, it got skipped forward at the. She's imitating words.
Yes. She also protested, but no, not that ball, this ball. Yeah, that verbal.
Okay, I'm gonna play one more while you guys are packing up. You can watch this one.
Oh, let's get to it.
And so I think too, like thinking about like the different settings and things, we might not see them all in like in the house. So this one was great that I loved it. We got to see outside too. Any last minute comments or questions for 0 to 18 months?
I love this, and I just said to our table, for the next Lunch and Learn year, nobody wants to talk about ISD services. We want to watch videos of children and talk about typical and atypical development. Well, yes, like, yeah. I love seeing this because I've been sitting here being like, 13-month-old, like, it's so, forget so easily. So easily, so I love it so much.
Yeah, it was so fun to watch all the babies and yeah, and to be like, well, okay, that like I would maybe expect it like to stop here, but oh, they're doing some more of those skills and it's really, yeah, it was fun to watch and score. All right, that's all we got.
You too, then. It's almost about to say Susie. You too, my dear. Back to being full.
Bye, Susie. We do have much in there.
Yes.
Very good. Yes, she ended up here.
Did you see stuff?
Wait, it's happening. Oh, there it is.
Oh, there it is. Yep.
Does anyone